Welcome back. In this step, let's solve the exercises from the previous step. We wanted to create separate components for the second component and the third component. I hope you got a chance to solve them. If you haven't, then this is how you do it. So all that you need to do is, I'll actually take the shortcut way. I'll say Control C, Control V, and I'll call this second component.jsx. It would start failing for a little while, that's okay. So second component.jsx, and I'll remove the first component from here, and I'll call default export class second component extends component, and remove the second component from here. Oops, syntax error, because it's not default export, it's actually export default. So these two are compiling fine. Now let's go to the app.js. Now this import needs to change, right? So let's copy this. This import should be import first component from this, and second component is no longer in that specific file. So what I need to do is import second component from second component. Cool. Let's see if it works. Cool, it continues to work. Isn't it awesome? So now we have the first component, the second component, both of them in their own files. I'll take the lazy approach again, Control C, Control V, and create the third component. Function third component, leave the export default and copy in the function third component, save. This is cool. Here I'm not using the component because I'm not extending the component class because this is a function component. So I'll remove that import, and I'll go to the app.js. What do I need to do now? I need to import the third component. Cool. Let's see if it succeeds. Yep, this continues to work. So let's quickly review the code that we have. We have import first component from first component, second component from second component, third component from third component. Each of these files is creating that specific class and doing an export default. One of the things is typically you would see this code written in this way. So instead of doing export default along with the class, you can also do export default first component. You'd see that the code continues to work. So this is kind of a best practice which is followed. If you have multiple components, it's very clear which is the default component which is exported. So you can just search for export default in a class and find out which component is the default. This is kind of typically followed in the JavaScript world. So let's do that as well. Export default third component. So that's number one. So export default can be a statement on its own, and it could be the last statement. One of the other things you can see is semicolon is not really required. So I'm trying to avoid using semicolons as much as possible, but because of the habit of working in Java, I kind of use semicolons a lot. Semicolons are not required in 99% of the places in JavaScript. In this step, we quickly moved the second component and third component into their own modules, and we imported them in the app, and we were able to quickly use them as well. I hope you're having an interesting time. I'll see you in the next step. Until then, bye-bye.